A nation's power isn't just about its own strength. It's a giant chess game where your power also depends on what your partners and your rivals are up to. That's a basic rule of geopolitics. And right now, it's setting the stage for a massive potential shift in the global order. So let's dive in and break this down. It all kicks off with this really provocative question from Russia's foreign minister. And make no mistake, this isn't just some casual remark. This is Russia throwing down a gauntlet, unveiling an incredibly audacious vision for a Eurasian supercontinent that could totally upend the world as we know it. So what is this grand vision all about? Well, Russia is essentially proposing to create this massive Eurasian bloc. The goal is to unite two whole continents under one collective security blanket. And that, my friends, is a direct shot at the Western-led world order that's been in place for decades. So why now? Well, from Moscow's perspective, they see an opening. When you've got key European leaders talking about breaking away from the US, and even former American presidents questioning how much they should be funding NATO, while Russia smells weakness. It looks like the old alliances are cracking, and that's a power vacuum they are more than ready to jump into. To really get why this is such a big deal, we gotta rewind the clock a bit and look at how our current world was even built. After World War II, one country really stepped up and became the architect of it all. The U.S. played its cards perfectly. Think about it. It hosted the Bretton Woods Conference, setting up the IMF and the World Bank right on its own turf. Then, it pumped billions into rebuilding Europe with the Marshall Plan, basically turning old rivals into new, loyal allies. But the real masterstroke? Cementing the U.S. dollar as the world's go-to currency. That gave America a level of economic and political power that was just unparalleled. Okay, so fast forward to the 21st century. The whole chessboard starts to tilt. The focus slowly starts shifting away from just maintaining that old order in Europe and toward confronting a brand new challenge that was rising up in the East. And that new challenge? No surprise here, it was China. As China's economy just exploded and its military got stronger and stronger, the U.S. had to make a strategic pivot. It started shifting its diplomatic, economic, and military muscle towards Asia, all in an effort to contain this new rising power. And here's a really clever way to see how that strategy changed. Just look at the language. For years, everyone talked about the Asia-Pacific. But then, Washington started using the term Indo-Pacific. Now, this wasn't just about changing a name on a map. No. This was a huge strategic move. It expanded the battlefield to include the Indian Ocean, and it deliberately put India in the spotlight as a major player to help balance against China. So the board is set for this massive geopolitical chess match. What's America's game plan to contain China? And, maybe more importantly, how are the other players in Asia deciding to move their pieces? All right, let's talk about one of the key plays in the American playbook. It's called the bait and bleed strategy. The logic is pretty brutal but simple. You don't want to fight your main rival head-on. Instead, you get a smaller partner or ally to do the fighting for you, drawing your rival into a long, expensive conflict that just drains them of resources. So here's how it plays out step by step. First, you empower an ally with weapons and support. Then, you bait your rival into a fight with that ally. And finally, you just sit back and watch as both sides bleed each other dry, wasting resources, manpower, and political will. Meanwhile, your main competitor gets weaker, and you haven't fired a shot. Some analysts actually look at the Russia-Ukraine conflict as a textbook example of this very strategy at work. But here's the thing. The nations in Asia, they have absolutely no interest in being pawns in someone else's game. Many of them are adopting a policy called strategic autonomy. It basically means they refuse to pick a side. They're not aligning fully with the US or China. Instead, they're playing their own game, working with everyone to do what's best for them. And you can see this happening all over the place. India, for example, is part of the Quad with the US, Japan, and Australia, but it draws a line in the sand, saying, nope, this is not an Asian NATO. Or look at Vietnam. They have serious fights with China over territory in the South China Sea, but at the same time, they're rolling out the red carpet for massive Chinese investment. It's a masterclass in playing both sides. So, with this incredibly complex web of rivalries and balancing acts, Russia's grand vision of a united Eurasia, or even just a united Asia, it sounds like a fantasy, right? But maybe not. The biggest hurdle, and it's a massive one, are what some people call congenital rivalries. Basically, these are conflicts that are so old and so deep, they feel like they're baked into the DNA of the region. Think India-Pakistan, North and South Korea, China and Japan.
These wounds run deep and make the idea of unity seem almost impossible.
But check this out, because history gives us a fascinating parallel. Just think about Europe. Its past was just centuries of nonstop, brutal wars. France and Germany were bitter enemies for generations, leading to two devastating world wars. And yet, out of all that destruction, they built the European Union. History proves that even the deepest rivalries can be overcome if the reason is strong enough. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? So let's say Asia does start to come together. It's not going to look like a copy of the West. Not at all. It would have to build something new, its own way.
And that's where Asia has a huge advantage. It can literally look at the West's playbook and learn from the mistakes. It can see the struggles the EU has had with things like Brexit or arguments over national sovereignty. An Asian way would likely be way more flexible, built on consensus and agreeing not to meddle in each other's business. We kind of see this already with ASEAN, the group of Southeast Asian nations, which focuses on cooperation without forcing everyone into a tight political union.
And this, right here, is the key takeaway. The building blocks for a new global power center, they're not just hypothetical. They're already there. Asia is at the forefront of the digital revolution in AI and semiconductors. It's got a massive young population. It's got the biggest and fastest growing markets on the planet, and it controls the critical resources that are going to fuel the future. The whole package is there.
So the potential is just massive. Everyone talks about the Asian century, but what will that actually mean? Is it going to be a story of cooperation where nations rise together, or will old rivalries flare up and turn the continent into the next great battlefield? That's the billion-dollar question, and the answer is still being written.